How's it going, everyone? Week 4, we're here with Coach Slopek. Coach, how's it going this week?
It's going pretty well. Before we get started, I want to talk a little bit about Eli and Braden, who are up here. You want to talk about two guys that play with unbelievable heart and unbelievable dedication to the team. You think about those guys. Certainly, if they're if we're looking for ideal guys that stay in the program and develop and do everything that's asked of them and become great teammates and then have great senior years as players. You can't go wrong with those two guys as great role models for our young guys and really great representatives of our program. So I'm really proud of them.
Yeah, and they were two great guys to interview, and very well said, Coach. And let's talk about a little bit about last week. You guys had a 40-21 loss over Garfield. What's your first thoughts on that game?
Well, I told the team after the game. I said that I never, we don't ever accept losing. But I thought that if we used that experience against that team positively, that could be a great springboard for us going forward. Because if we talk about being a league champion contender, a playoff contender, that's the kind of team that you run into, in the playoffs. No, we won't run into them because they're obviously in a different division, in a different region, things like that. But that kind of team with that size, with that physicality, with that aggression, and certainly we have a lot to fix, when you lose 40-21. But in terms of matching their physicality and intensity, I don't think that was necessarily something that we lacked in. So it was like we just have to worry about us. That was one of the things I said after the game. We have to really worry about us, and then you get to this week where we're playing against us basically all week. So it maybe I jinxed it. I don't know, but that was one of those messages that we took away, and I can't say more. I told you last week how much I thought of Garfield's team and how much I thought of their program, boy, they were everything that I thought they were, and it was a great challenge for us in a great high school football game.
Yeah, and we talked about this a little bit with the other two guys that we interviewed, and they're a good team. And we talked about this with you last week, and you had high praises for them. They beat JFK. They lost to Edgewood, who's going to be a really good team and a tough team to play. So it's not like you said, you don't want to lose, but you played up. You played a really good opponent, and there's probably a lot that you guys can learn from this game.
That's kind of like a long-standing idea and theme of mine and our program really is like it's great to win every game, and I'm sure we could really try to schedule wins, in the out-of-league games, but you don't learn much from winning. Like everybody wants to win, of course, right? But you don't learn much from winning. When you lose, even though it hurts, it's okay. That's okay to hurt a little bit. Okay, it's okay to go through that, and we talked about it hardening, us physically and mentally, for the tasks that are ahead, and so when you win all the time, you kind of get maybe an inflated sense of who you are. All right, and so then when that happens, you're kind of set up for a downfall. And so with this, it causes us to have to refocus and reprioritize certain things, and as coaches too. We have to learn from it as well, not just the players, of course. We have to learn from it first, to be able to impart those lessons onto the players.
Yeah, and talking about like refocusing, learning from this loss. You guys have a little bit of extra time to do it this week.
Yeah.
Probably takes you back to your old college days, having a bye week. It's not something we see at the high school level.
Yeah.
What can you do, though, to make the most out of this week?
Well, that was one of the, I actually talked to a couple guys I know that are college football coaches and things like that, and talked about, like, well, what kind of things do you do? And I thought a little bit back to as a player, but it's different when you're a player, and that was also I'm old, so that was a long time ago. I talked to some guys, and they said, well, everybody kind of came back to just make sure your guys, get that opportunity to work on some of those fundamental things. You know, when you're in the midst of game planning and stuff, you sort of set aside X amount of offensive calls and X amount of defensive calls that you're going to work on that you think are going to give you an advantage, whether they be with, mostly it's on offense, it's the formations and things like that you're going to use, the personnel groupings that you're going to use, and then the plays. And our plays don't necessarily change a whole lot, but we change a lot of our groupings in our formations and stuff based on what we think is going to give us the best opportunity versus the defense we're going against. Defensively, when you're going into a game, you may only carry about 8 to 9 different calls that we want to use in a given game, again, based on what we think we're going to get from the opponent formationally, all right, and then we have things built in that we can adjust if need be. When you don't have a game to prepare for, it gives you a chance to go back to those fundamental things. And, we do a tackling drills and stuff like that once a week during the season. This week without a game, we've already got 2 good days of fundamental tackling in, and we're going to get 1 more in tomorrow. We got back to real basic stuff like, square one, how, to exchange the ball between the quarterbacks and the running backs, which again we do that during the game week as well, but now we have more opportunity and more time to do that on multiple days this week. Basic fundamentals of blocking and footwork and body positioning and things like that can sometimes lag as the season goes on because you don't want to bang bodies a lot during the week and stuff and get guys banged up for the games. It gives us an opportunity to be a little bit more physical and build those calluses up on our body and harden ourselves, physically, without having to worry about, being worn down for a game on Friday.
Yeah, and absolutely. So just some time to kind of refine, get back to those fundamentals.
Yeah.
Talking to Eli, he said a week to try to master what you can out there. And this would be the time where you're flipping the script. You're supposed to play Waterloo, a section game. Just kind of not looking ahead to Campbell next week. We'll go over that next week. But what's it looking ahead to the section? What are you doing to just prepare for that?
Well, we always talk about the league games and stuff like that, and that means a lot to us, because they give a trophy away at the end. And if there's a trophy being given away at the end of something, we want to win it, and so it becomes a situation where and I made this mention on Saturday to our guys that every game from now on is a championship game because if you win them all, well, you get the trophy. You know what I mean? And that's still is in our sights, even though we're going to miss this first one here. You know what I mean? Like if we win them all, there's no way they can deny us that trophy at the end. And so that's really what the focal point is. And that's, we're going to have a tall task, with some of the teams that we have coming up. But I do believe that we can prepare ourselves to give ourselves the greatest chance of that. We've done that through the first 3 weeks of the season. We have made marked improvements. We still have a long way to go. But we don't want to peak in week 2 or week 3 or week 4. We want to be peaking towards the end of the season when those games really gets down to the nitty-gritty in terms of league championships, playoff berths, et cetera, which is our expectation.
Coach, thank you so much. Best of luck finish off this week, and we'll talk to you again next week.
Yeah, I appreciate it. No, thank you.
Thank you.